Jeremy blinked several times as he suddenly awoke. There was no pain, no grogginess, and he felt like he could think clearly. He was in a hospital room, but not aboard the behemoth, and certainly not on Earth. A moment later, the door to his room opened, but Jeremy couldn't see anyone. It was as though a ghost opened the door, walked in, and shut it behind them. Now it was pulling a chair closer to his bed. Harry jumped up to be eye level with Jeremy, who started.
"Geez, man, you scared me."
Harry looked at him quizzically.
"How?"
Sitting up, Jeremy said,
"I couldn't see you walk in. The door just opened and closed. That, and you kind of don't make any noise when you move around."
"Oh, sorry."
Jeremy grinned, then shook his head.
Last thing I remember was running out of oxygen and trying my best impersonation of a pancake on the airlock.
Harry's expression grew a little dark.
"Well, you somewhat succeeded on both accounts. Definitely the first one, but I wouldn't have quite given you pancake status."
"Why don't I hurt, like at all?"
Jeremy asked.
"Well, Duck and Burton Tatum got you onto a gurney, and we put you in stasis until we docked at Meege, which is where we are now. They've got decent facilities here, but we had to shuttle in a neurologist to get your gray matter right,"
Harry said, his eyes drifting off.
"What's the bad news?"
Jeremy asked, preparing himself.
"Well, you cost House Tyr quite a bit putting you back together, and Cella went the extra mile and got you a few upgrades. Other than that, we did cognition tests while you were out, and you looked in pretty good shape, considering."
Wait. D put me in a gurney?
Yeah. He saw you leave airlock 13, but didn't have time to tell anyone before you decided to try to breach it with your face. He was the first one there."
Was he in an EVA suit?
Jeremy asked.
No. Why would he have been? He was in the kitchen with Ressi. They were helping Kier get dinner ready,"
he said. "That's 2 out of 3 suspects accounted for."
"What's wrong?"
Erie asked. Jeremy shook his head. There was simply no way the cargo door actuated itself, and something had hit him while he was EVA.
Nothing,
he said.
Just trying to piece things together.
Erie nodded.
"So tell me about these upgrades,"
he asked, changing the subject.
"Thought you'd never ask,"
he yelped, jumping onto Jeremy's bed. He tilted his tablet so they could both see.
"All right. First up, coiled polymer muscle fibers. We've added a few to your major muscle groups. They'll make you quite a bit stronger, but they're tied into your existing nervous system in a way that they'll only activate when you're dealing with some serious loads."
Jeremy felt his arms, but they didn't feel any different.
"We haven't turned any of this stuff on yet, silly. Have to let you know how it all works first. Anyway, next up was a brain augmentation. Basically a monitoring station for all these new toys and some upgrades to your vision, hearing, and smell. Well, plus some other things. Upgrading tactile sensation is pretty expensive, and Cella didn't want to break the bank, so we skipped on that one except for your fingertips. It's basically so you can feel screws and other tiny things through EVA gloves and such."
"My EVA already had reciprocating pressure sensors in them,"
he stated.
"Yes, but these are so much better. You can still use those, but these will let you touch something through the suit, like you're not even wearing it,"
Harry said, getting excited.
"Okay, you're leading up to something. What is it?"
Harry was standing on his bed, literally hopping from foot to foot.
"Are you ready for this?"
"I hope so,"
he said, trying to match Harry's excitement.
"We tapped some of the things that make you Terrans really good, and made them better. You're basically a super Terran.
"Wait, what?"
Imagine not needing nor wanting sleep, not losing focus because you drank too much the night before, not hurting so bad after working a long day."
He practically squealed.
"Sounds neat,"
he said, confused. Harry stopped dancing.
"I thought you'd be really happy."
"No, it's great, Harry. I just didn't know what to expect. How does all that work?"
he asked.
"Okay, so get this,"
he said, picking up where he left off.
"Your brain aug will take care of most of that and more over the next few months. It's a slow transition since a fast one might shock your subconscious into thinking something was wrong. Some things will kick in right away, like the acid buildup I noticed a while back.
You know that's there for a reason, right?
Jeremy stated more than asked.
I do. Your people called it the Krebs cycle. It's to keep you from overexerting or hurting your muscles until they've recovered. But the thing is, your coiled polymers will pick up the slack. So other things, like improving your waking recovery, will take more time. Eventually, only 2 to 3 hours per your normal rhythm.
That's awesome, Ari.
Jeremy lied through his teeth. He wasn't quite sure how to feel about these upgrades yet. The muscles, sure. The improved senses? Awesome. Being Super Terran didn't sound like its namesake at all.
Okay, now that you're up, we can get going. We brought some of your clothes for you. Sorry I had to go through your things,
He said.
No problem at all. Thank you, Ari.
He said, smiling.
I'll let Cella know you're up and getting ready. We need to get a move on if we're going to keep schedule.
Hey, Ari.
Jeremy called out to him as he opened the door.
Exactly how long was I out for?
Ari looked at his tablet.
About 16 hours. We've already made our drop here, so we didn't lose a ton of time, but we've got to get going.
Jeremy sat there for a few minutes, collecting his thoughts. He should definitely be dead. His mind's eye went back and looked for anything he might have missed at the time, but the only thing he knew for certain was that Dee was inside the airlock and not outside with him. If what Ari said was accurate, that left Cella herself. But why go through all the trouble of killing him, only to pour more money into getting him fixed up? Jeremy stood and grabbed his pants. As he did so, he realized that Ari had turned on his upgrades. He could easily feel the contours of the woven fabric, occasionally finding a frayed thread here and there. It was interesting, to say the least. He brushed his arm, and instead of feeling somewhat fuzzy arm hair, he noticed each individual follicle. He even counted them if he wanted. He was holding his pants in one hand, and that arm in the other hand when Cella walked in.
She
said, not quite averting her gaze.
Ari said you were ready.
Jeremy suddenly realized the awkward position he was in, but surprisingly wasn't that embarrassed.
I was about to, but realized he turned on my tactile something or another's, and it's, interesting.
Should I come back, maybe?
She asked.
No, it's fine,
He said, and essentially jumped into his pants. Once they were on, the tension eased slightly.
Well, I appreciate the patching up. I'll have to get back to you on the rest, he said.
You're welcome, Jeremy.
She said, smiling.
Thank you for all you've done. We'd still be in dry dock without your help.
She replied.
Yeah, on that note, what other upgrades did the brain aug come with? I'm thinking differently,
Oh?
She said, stepping closer.
How so?
faster. I'm putting pieces of this puzzle together a lot quicker than I think I would have otherwise.
Anything else?
She asked, taking a seat on the corner of the bed. Jeremy noticed that she was in casual dress, letting her wings float closely to her, rather than clasped together. Any other time, he'd pursue the hinted invitation until he got kicked out or they locked the door. But something was eating away at him.
You weren't trying to kill me. You made sure I got hurt so you could get these upgrades in,
he stated. His feet planted into the floor, facing Cella, his shoulders broadened. She crossed her arms, not saying anything at first. He had crossed a line, knowingly and intentionally crossed a line.
You're the better for it, are you not?
She asked.
You could have asked Cella,
he said plainly. That was it. There was no drama, just facts. He didn't care about the why, just that she had done it.
I couldn't afford the possibility of you declining.
She said. Jeremy pulled his shirt on, then sat to get his boots laced.
That being said, this might be your port of call, but it's my last stop on the behemoth.
Those are my implants in you, Jeremy Subtle.
She reminded him.
Yeah!
He yelled.
Implants necessary because you nearly killed me. I'd say we're about even. Why the hell didn't you ask?
I need you. There's more going on than you know.
I'm out. Call Dakenburton Tatinum. Have him get my things and have them on the station by the time I get there,
he demanded. Jeremy went to leave, but she suddenly stood and blocked his way. He gently took her by the arms, but she grabbed his face and brought it to hers, kissing him. It was nice, and reminded him of a cheerleader from another school he'd made out with under the bleachers. He'd gotten into a fight with her boyfriend shortly after and lost, but that kiss had been worth it. He pulled back, then gently moved her.
There was a time when I'd have loved to see where this went, Cella.
What happened?
Dee asked, holding a small box of things. The tote hauled his duffel bag full of tools and clothes. The box was little trinkets and things he'd kept.
Burton Tattenham, I really don't want to talk about it,
Jeremy said, reaching for his things. Dee twisted, moving the box just out of reach.
Jeremy, did you just get my name right?
He thought for a second.
Burton, yeah, I got it right. Please, my things?
Dee sat the box down and took Jeremy by the arm.
We need to talk for a minute, Jeremy. Come. I know there's a bar right up here that has whiskey.
Again, there was a privacy screen. Again, there was booze. It was a very familiar scene, and to Jeremy, it was starting to getting old.
Cella means well, Jeremy,
Dee said, taking a swig of something Pa Arthans considered an equivalent to whiskey.
She sure has a fucking strange way of showing it.
You're angry,
Dee stated.
and you called me the observant one? I'm also not your enemy.
Jeremy sighed, took a shot, ordered 2 more, took one of the new ones, and let himself relax a little.
You're right. Thanks, by the way,
he said.
For getting your things, it was...
No, dummy, for dragging my splattered body out of the airlock. But yes, thank you for getting my things, too.
Dee put a clawed hand on his shoulder.
You're okay, Jeremy Subtle. I'm not going to evade the fact that I hated you when I first met you, but Cella was right about you.
Right about what?
You're an honest Terran. To be an honest person, you have to be honest with yourself. Right now, you're trying to figure out exactly what it is you want, why you feel the way you do, how you should feel. I can see the conflict going on inside your head,
He said.
I'm honest enough, you mean? Honest enough not to bullshit you, but just enough dishonest that I'd lie to a Terran police cruiser for you?
He asked. Dee's head tilted in thought.
Pretty much, yes. We needed someone who would be honest with those who depended on him, who really didn't care much for Terran government.
Look, I know you guys are savvy when it comes to socialization, but how could Cella pick me out of a packed spaceport and know that I'm honest? What good does that do you anyway? It's not like I'm in charge of anything important.
Instead of speaking, Dee clasped his claws together. Whatever he was drinking was slowing his wit, Jeremy saw. He downed his next shot, then ordered 2 more. One way or another, he was getting drunk today.
You're wrong on both accounts, Jeremy,
Dee said.
First, what you do is extremely important, and we need someone who is both competent and honest with the rest of the crew. There's a lot of Terrans who may have more skill than you, but very few may possess the level of moral sense you have. That might have been a better term to use, moral sense. There's a plethora of Terran engineers we could have hired from, but you know what? They'd get half the work done, claim the same hours, and tell us the other half would be fine. Then our ship suddenly finds itself in a debris field and we're getting shredded to bits.
Oh,
Jeremy said, setting the drink down he was about to knock back.
Have you ever wondered why we have bunk beds? 2 sleeping places to a room? Only half of them are used?
Dee asked.
your last engineer was a Terran of the shittier variety, I take it?
Dee nodded, finished his drink in 2 gulps, and ordered another.
There's more to it, though.
Cella didn't pick me out of a crowd, did she?
He asked.
Nope.
Dee said as his drink arrived.
I'm not getting why she tried to kill me, though,
Jeremy said, slamming his empty shot glass onto the table.
Insurance.
Dee said.
What?
Cheaper that way. Only way it was possible, actually. Insurance covered everything except your fine tactile sensation. She spent the last bit of our savings on that.
What? I thought House Terror paid for all that.
Jeremy shouted. Whatever Dee was drinking came out of his nose. Between coughing and laughing, he held his hand up.
Ter didn't pay for any of it. Who told you that? Erie's a good guy, an even better medic, but he doesn't know anything.
Dee got the last bit of liquid out and laughed in earnest.
Why wouldn't House Terror help Cella out?
He asked. Dee settled down, took a gulp of what was left of his drink, and said very plainly,
Cella's disowned Jeremy. She's house nothing right now. Among us, she's a slight step up from where I came from, but as far as her family sees it, she's living in the dirt.
What am I missing? You know about the cargo?
Jeremy asked.
Yes.
What gives?
Well, the war started because politicians can be pretty stubborn, to the point of spilling blood rather than admitting a mistake. There's blame to go around for sure, but you guys did start it,
He said thoughtfully.
I'm not arguing that. Our politicians haven't really done anything for anyone besides themselves in a long time.
This, Jeremy Subtle,
Dee said, shoving a wavering claw at him.
this is why you are here. Look, I'm not supposed to say anything, but Cella thought you'd work out, you know? Help us out.
Jeremy realized that the whiskey was starting to work on him, too.
What do you mean?
Our people, Jeremy. After the war, Terra holds 8 of our colonies. They keep them there by forcing them to depend on them, you know? For medicine, work, protection, things like that. That's what this mission is all about. We're not trading hardly anything. Cella wants to put us to work helping out those people, you know? All the profit we do make goes to the mission.
Another whiskey went down the hatch. He almost ordered more, but realized the last 3 probably hadn't hit him yet.
Okay,
He shouted, then quietly realized.
I get it.
Good! A muffled voice came from the crook of Dee's arm. Their privacy screen would expire soon, and if the barkeep saw him passed out, they'd get thrown out.
Wake up, bud.
He said, gently shaking Dee.
Come on.
What? Oh, we're still here.
He said.
Your powers of observation are astounding.
Jeremy shouted. They both laughed long and hard at that.
Okay.
Jeremy said, noticing that the privacy screen was gone.
How do I make things right with Cella?
I don't know, Jeremy. Talk to her? You're a pretty good talker, you know? Not like us, but pretty good.
She's got a lot to answer for herself, you know.
Yeah, she knows. She's pretty smart, too.
Dee slurred. It was time to go.